Рекорд. Так, кому как удобнее? На английском попрактиковаться или же оставить все на русском? Хорошо. Let's start then. First of all, did you open your Visual Studio Code? Yep. Okay. So first of all, we need to create a project. We open the terminal and we need to write npx create dash next dash up at latest. Tell me when you're ready. Response admit. Вилен, правильно, да? Создал проект? Угу. Окей. npx create next up latest. Окей. Звук, пожалуйста. Ага. Так, на каком вы этапе сейчас? Уже сделали? Проект назвали? Мгм. Let's name our project My Chatbot. Today we will use TypeScript instead of JavaScript, okay? We will not use ESLint. We will use Tailwind CSS. And we will use CRS directory. And we will use app router. And we will not use TurboBack. So basically we will have yes, no, yes, 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 no, no. Let's wait until the project will be initialized. By the way, do you have experience in Next.js? Okay, so what's the difference between TypeScript and JavaScript? Do you know about that? It's almost the same as JavaScript, but we need to use type. For example, what types we know? Int, Boolean, what else? Float, long, etc. So in TypeScript, we should define all the data types. That's why it's called TypeScript. It's the same as JavaScript, but extended to use typization. То есть типизацию используем. Let's write cd my chatbot so we can enter to our project. And we have the following structure. Let's make a localhost. We need to run npm run dev. And the project will be initialized in our console. Okay. We can go to any browser and write localhost 3000. And we will get the following. It's a Next.js template. And now we should make some changes to get an empty page. Currently, we have the following function called home. We can delete everything. For example, footer, main, etc. Let's create an empty div. And write our hello world. Don't forget to save your project. And we will have hello world. Also, by default, our Next.js will be primarily with the black background and white text. To fix that, we need to go to globals.css, remove everything, and we will get a standard hello world page. Okay. Now, how the Next.js works is that in our app folder, we can create any other folder. For example, let's create page about. And in this folder, we need to create a file called page.tsx. Let's write rfc, and we will have the following function. Let's go to this page. We will write localhost 3000 / about. And this is how we work with pages in Next.js. Now let's consider we want to create on our about section, or let's change the name to chat. To create a page with our future ChatGTP like AI chatbot. First of all, do you keep up with me, Alan? Okay. What we should do next? In this div, we need to create an input field and a button. So we have our input field, and it seems to not be visible. That's why we should create a class name. Class name is used to set the CSS within HTML. Because we use Tailwind, we can set the styles directly within the TSX file. So let's write class name, border 4 pixel. And we will get our gray border. And now let's go to the AI part. Do you have any questions so far? Okay, I think it's quite easy. Let's go to our root file in my chatbot, and we need to create a folder called pages. Within these pages, we should make a folder called Gemini. In this folder, we need to make a file called route.js. Because during our initialization of the project, we decided to use app router, we can access any API within the root folder. Right now, we need to set up some dependencies. So let's delete terminal and add some dependencies. cd my chatbot. How we can install dependencies? We need to write npm install called at google/generative AI. At google/generative AI. This will be our main dependency with which we will access the Gemini API. Let's execute it. And we have 0 vulnerabilities. That's amazing. Later, we need to go to a web service called Google AI Studio. Do you see the link? You can access it by Googling Google AI Studio or using the following link that you see here. So basically what this service do, here we have a playground with some ChatGPT-like engine called Gemini, and we can ask anything, and we also can set up some system instructions. For example, I can say that you are a sales manager and you need to consult me about I don't know, Reebok sales or Nike during the winter of 2020. This is just an example. And we can ask anything, and depending on the system prompt, we can get a result that we need. Or let's consider an easier example. Provide me an Instagram post within 200 or, for example, 3 sentences in Russian. Let's write event about what events can there be in Almaty? Event about hackathon from KBTU, for example, at 3 o'clock, 26th of December. Let's run it. And we got our 3-sentence post in Russian, depending on the prompt that we put. That's pretty amazing. We can do anything. And we also can use some safety settings, for example, to filter harassment, hate, etc. And we also can regulate the temperature. Temperature means the degree of creativity of the AI. So it's very important to set up a good system instruction because, for example, if you try to bite the LLM model into producing the results that you don't need, for example, to make some misleading information, it will be a concern that you need to tackle. You also can write some additional instructions, for example, provide only, I don't know, reliable information without any bias. It's just an example. Don't produce a negative response, and etc. etc. You can do anything. It will be depend on the purposes of your project. For example, during hackathons, you also can make a tech startup. And if you will try to use LLM model, consider using system instructions by writing here, for example, you are a teacher, math teacher for 5th graders. And the LLM will try to respond according to the limit you set or according to the topic you provided. And today we'll also consider RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. We will feed the AI with the data we need. For example, we can feed it some topics about mathematics for 5th graders, like what topics you consider will be relevant to 5th grade at mathematics. Какие темы пятиклассники проходят? по математике.
Выделение.
Окей. Multiplication. Topics. Multiplication, division. What else? Теорема Пифагора. 10-й? Ну, предположим, что это 5-й. Окей. В целом, что такое System Prompt, понятно? То есть давайте резюмируем в 3 факта. Я назову один факт, вы назовете следующие 2 факта. System Prompt нужен для того, чтобы защитить нашу LLM-модель от плохих промптов. Это первое. Второе, Алан.
User prompt. User prompt — это то, что ты требуешь от того.
Окей. И третий bullet point. Для чего нужны вот это вот AI Studio? Да, в целом. Еще упомянем temperature. Мы можем регулировать его креативность. Также можем выбрать разные модели. Я про это забыл упомянуть. We can choose between many other Gemini models. For example, Pro is more advanced than the Flash, but Flash is faster. So that's the difference. Let's make an API key. We will try to get API key. The main advantage of Gemini is that it provides free access to use their LLM model compared to OpenAI. Что хорошо для хакатонщиков, Gemini он бесплатный, а ChatGPT, OpenAI он платный. Для этого надо где-то $5. Поэтому мы сегодня сосредоточимся на Gemini. Это одно из его преимуществ. Надо зайти на Google AI Studio, взять Get API Key и получить API Key. После того, как вы его получите, вам надо его запихать в файл, который называется .env. You need to create a .env file, for example, local or just .env, doesn't matter. And here you need to write Gemini API key equals your API key, like here. Написали? Так, сейчас, секунду. У тебя должно быть вот такая вот файловая структура, как здесь. Ты написал npx, есть места. Твой чат-бот у тебя, кажется, не заинициализировался. Давай корзину терминал сделаем. И новый терминал. Давай npx. Create. Если случаются такие проблемы, лучший способ — это копировать ошибку и потом зайти либо на Stack Overflow, либо спросить у чата GTP. Так, что здесь можно сделать? Для того, чтобы сделать npx create next tab, надо вроде сперва версаль скачать. Давайте попробуем.
Версия?
Зайдем на официальную документацию Next.js. Я как-то это забыл упомянуть, что прежде чем создать проект, насколько помню, надо сперва установить Next.js у себя.
У тебя Node.js есть? У меня Node.js есть.
Мгм. Давай, installation зайдем. Да, я сейчас скину ссылку, наверное, в телегу. Мгм. Вот эту вот ссылку, точнее, вот эту команду надо ввести в терминал. npm install. Сперва надо загрузить Next, потом React и React DOM. Видно? Before you can write npx create next tab, you need to put this command to install Next, React, and React DOM dependencies. Without them, you cannot initialize your project. Sorry, I forgot about that. Мгм. Have you finished? Мгм. Да, пока я не забыл, давайте лучше сохраним пока в GitHub все, что у нас есть.
Скачал, да? Visual Studio. Я тебе в чат.
To initialize our project in Git, we need first write git init. Then we need to write this.
А ты твое тестируешь?
Мгм. Да, я потом поделюсь ссылкой на GitHub. В целом, проверю. Here we have our project. Let's git add everything. Git commit. First commit. And let's git push. we will see our pages. Yeah, it's here. And you also can fork from this project from now. Сейчас поделюсь ссылкой. Вот на том моменте, где мы остановились. Можешь оттуда форк сделать и потом заклонировать на свою рабочую область. Десктоп. Мгм. Пока я продолжу чуть-чуть. В нашем Google AI Studio есть справа сверху, at the top right corner, we will see a get code button. We need to press it. We also can write our system instructions here, ABCD, for example, and it will be available here. Also, if you try to write something, the history of the chat will be visible here, and it also will be copied. We can copy it. Also, there is options to write this code in Python, Go, Kotlin, Swift, and etc. If you are using Flutter, you also can easily integrate it in your project. Today we will consider JavaScript, and we will write all this code in our road.js file. All right. And to be able to use our .env, we need to import it. And because my project requires ES model, we need to convert it into the import statement rather than require statement. Additionally, we need to import .env from .env config to initialize our .env file where we will store our Gemini API key. Also, important reminder, never share your API keys, because if you commit it into your GitHub, it's a very common mistake. You may lose all of your data, or your project can be corrupted. And it's very important to put your .env file into gitignore, so you will not accidentally commit your API keys. Here, .env is visible in our project, but it's invisible in our GitHub because of this file gitignore. Here you can see that it will not commit your node models, your build, yarn debug, vercel files, and .env. The star means any .env like files such as .env, for example, local and etc. They will not be visible in your GitHub. Let's continue. We configured our .env, and now we are ready to change our Gemini file. So here's full file for Gemini, which is custom made for my own pet project. Or is it? 1 second. Yes, it's completely the same. Mhm. Don't forget to rename your API key from .env in case you name it differently. For example, here it's Gemini API key. The same name should be here in your .env. Remember that. The second thing we need to make is also to, let's create a new folder called data, and we will create our data.json file where we will store our custom data for our RAG, retrieval augmented generation, and we need to import it. Import data from data.json. So we import that. The second thing, we also need to check for API key and throw error if API key is not visible, because it's a common practice when the project doesn't see your API key, and we need to consider this option in case the API key is not seen. And to add here the following, it means that if the Gemini API key is invisible or doesn't exist, we will use this statement, which is empty data. And if we will encounter that Gemini API key doesn't exist, we'll get the following string as our API key, and it will throw an error. It's a good precaution method. Here we also can configure our system instruction. Previously in Google AI Studio, we wrote A, B, C, D. Here you can write anything you want. For example, today we want to create our chatbot for educational purposes, for mathematics for fifth graders. We'll write, you are a math teacher in grade. You're helping students with the math homework. It's just an example, but you can write anything you want. Here we are handling our API, which we will write after our generation config. About here. We will make an asynchronous function. We will try to send some data, and in case the data is not sent, or it will send a null, we will throw an error when there can be a null data. For example, very common practice is when we try to ask Gemini the language it doesn't speak. For example, Kazakh. Unfortunately, Kazakh language is not supported. We'll try to write Salim, Alaysan. And sometimes it may not respond, sometimes it can, but most of the time it cannot speak Kazakh language. Okay, right now it spoke, but if we will try to put in system prompt, you must speak Kazakh, create an Instagram post about an event. And we will ask it to write about hackathon at KBTU, 26th of December. 13 o'clock. We may get an error. Wow. About 2 months ago, it couldn't speak Kazakh, but fortunately, right now it can. So maybe we will not get an issue with that. But just in case, sometimes Gemini may have some errors. You need to consider that. And that's all, basically. And here are the methods. So basically, we have get and post methods. Do you have any questions so far? Давайте на русском, что делает get метод и что делает post метод, для чего они используются. Ну, как переводится хотя бы get и post. Угу. Угу. Вот, допустим, рассмотрим real world example, когда мы используем get. Вот, допустим, ты хочешь взять у кого-то в долг, ты отправляешь ему get запрос, дай денег. А если, допустим, у тебя кто-то просит денег, и ты ему даешь деньги, то тогда ты уже делаешь пост в виде денег. Это понятно, да? И здесь, получается, у нас есть asynchronous function, называется handler. И тут написано, если метод не является post, то мы отправляем, что функция не разрешается. И то же самое в других вещах. То есть здесь у нас есть post метод и будет потом get метод, но об этом попозже. Сейчас у нас время 14:50. Давайте перейдем в другой кабинет, потому что нам по расписанию так выделили. И уже займемся небольшим интерфейсом. В целом бэкэнд часть мы разобрали, осталось только подправить наш Gemini, приукрасить. Угу.